Tonight, we begin with a development that legal experts had predicted, prosecutors had prepared for, and Trump's own lawyers had desperately tried to avoid. A collapse that unfolded not over months of litigation, but in a single devastating court filing. A single filing that exposed the hollowness of the declassification defense. A single filing that forced Trump's attorneys to abandon their central argument. A single filing that may have fundamentally altered the trajectory of this case. What Trump's legal team did crossed a line that defense attorneys had hoped would hold. And when that line broke, the special counsel's office did not hesitate. They responded with precision, with documentation, and with devastating clarity. For months now, there had been signals not from official court documents, not from formal legal briefs, just signals that Trump's declassification defense was preparing to implode. Trump has been defiant, yes, but his lawyers have been remarkably quiet in their defiance. Their legal motions have followed a certain pattern, a rhythm, almost a choreography of avoidance. But what set off alarm bells in legal circles this week was that the pattern went silent. Attorneys who monitor federal criminal cases know the indicators. The sudden absence of declassification claims in sworn filings, the careful hedging in oral arguments, the refusal to assert under oath what Trump claims on television, the sudden pivot to procedural arguments, all of that went quiet. And whenever Trump's legal strategy goes quiet, it means something is about to get loud. Early this week, court observers detected what they described as a fundamental shift in defense posture, including legal concessions that had not been made in over 2 years of litigation. These are the kinds of admissions that Trump's lawyers only make when they are signaling something very specific: retreat, recalibration, or surrender. Legal analysts didn't know which category this fell into or whether it fell into all three at once. But what they did know was that Trump's team was changing their legal posture. And when criminal defendants shift strategy without explanation, even by small measure, prosecutors pay attention. The filing issued by the special counsel tonight was not normal. It was not routine. It was not symbolic. It was devastating. Source after source within the legal community described Trump's retreat as predictable, legally necessary, and perhaps most importantly, an admission that the declassification argument was never viable in the first place. But legal bluffs only work if the prosecution hesitates. Jack Smith did not. In fact, their response today was among the most methodical we've seen in this prosecution. Here's what we know. Within hours of Trump's team quietly abandoning their declassification claims, prosecutors filed documentation systematically dismantling every alternative argument. These weren't the ordinary procedural responses. These were comprehensive legal rebuttals, filings that prosecutors only submit when they are preparing to close the trap entirely. Tonight, court documents confirmed that prosecutors presented evidence on classified markings, including testimony that had recently been corroborated by additional witnesses for what analysts believe was anticipation of this exact moment. Prosecutors moved before Trump's lawyers could pivot to a new defense. They addressed the standing order claim. They addressed the, thinking about it, declassification theory. They addressed the testimonial evidence that was likely preparing to be challenged. In other words, prosecutors targeted every escape route simultaneously, the legal foundation that would have made the declassification defense viable. This is what made legal observers' warnings so urgent. Trump's claims weren't just legally dubious, they were factually unsupportable. They represented the kind of argument that could mislead juries if left unchallenged, and prosecutors, understanding that fully, responded with force. Not recklessly, not impulsively, but strategically. They didn't attack Trump's character. They didn't rely on political arguments. They cited the classification statutes. They cited the witness testimony. And here's where the story becomes even more significant. Legal experts now believe that Trump's declassification strategy was designed to test the patience of prosecutors after months of delay tactics. Trump wanted to see whether Smith's team would chase procedural rabbits indefinitely. But instead, the opposite happened. Prosecutors didn't take the bait. They filed a response that was so comprehensive, so methodical that even Trump's lawyers noticed. You don't get Trump's legal team's attention easily. But today, prosecutors did. Defense attorneys speaking with media under anonymity described Trump's pivot as a strategic repositioning, a way to preserve appeal options. But prosecutors proved today that they remain both prepared and patient. Their filings were not only thorough, they were timed so precisely that defense counsel had no opportunity to establish alternative narratives. That timing matters because it shows prosecutorial coordination at the highest level. It shows that the special counsel's office is not reacting to Trump's moves. They're anticipating them. As reports continued coming in throughout the evening, we learned more about the scale of prosecutorial preparation. Legal analysts confirmed that prosecutors had prepared rebuttal filings for every possible defense pivot, forcing Trump's team into an increasingly narrow corridor. Court observers noted that witness testimony had been secured in the last several weeks. Former intelligence officials, speaking on background, reportedly confirmed the classification status of documents Trump claimed he had declassified. This wasn't just legal maneuvering. This wasn't just prosecutorial diligence. This was strategic encirclement. This was legal momentum. And legal momentum is the one thing Trump has struggled to maintain since the case began. For every delay they have achieved, prosecutors have countered with something that made conviction more likely, not less. Remember, Trump thought the declassification argument would work. They thought claiming presidential authority would create reasonable doubt. They thought public statements about declassification would be enough to confuse jurors. But tonight, the exact opposite is happening. His own lawyers won't assert the claim under oath. Prosecutors have documentation contradicting every public statement. Even Trump-appointed judges have rejected the legal theory. What makes this moment so consequential and so revealing is that Trump's legal collapse happened at a time when the former president is under extraordinary political pressure. Republican donors want a viable candidate. Primary voters want a fighter. His political base wants vindication. His legal team wants a defense they can actually argue in court. Trump is balancing these demands while facing multiple criminal indictments simultaneously. And when defendants in that position make sudden legal retreats, they're not doing it from strength. They're doing it from pressure. They're doing it from vulnerability. The special counsel's filing, now publicly available, was designed to signal that prosecutors are not willing to allow delay tactics to succeed indefinitely. Prosecutors said plainly that Trump's handling of classified materials was inconsistent with any lawful declassification process. That is legal language for and never declassified anything, and we can prove it. You don't usually hear that tone from federal prosecutors unless conviction is the goal. Meanwhile, Trump addressed supporters in a defiant, rambling statement tonight. He said, "They know I declassified those documents." He said, "This is election interference, pure and simple." And he said, "We're going to fight this all the way." These are not legal arguments. These are statements from a defendant who understands just how weak his position has become. Here's what makes the situation even more concerning for Trump. The declassification collapse wasn't isolated. Along with this legal setback, his attorneys also face potential sanctions for frivolous filings. Co-defendants have shown signs of potential cooperation. Additional classified documents continue to surface in ongoing investigations. All of this happened within the same legal window. When multiple elements of a defense collapse simultaneously, it means something larger is underway. Legal analysts are now considering several possibilities. One is that Trump's team is preparing for a plea negotiation. Another is that they are attempting to delay until after the election. A third possibility, the one worrying the defense team most, is that prosecutors are attempting to secure conviction before November. But today, Trump's lawyers effectively took the declassification card off the table. They didn't assert it in their filing. They didn't reference it in oral arguments. They didn't even hint at it in their legal strategy. they retreated completely. What we're watching now is a test of the American legal system. Trump wants to see whether political pressure can derail prosecution. Prosecutors want to show that no one is above the law. The courts want to prevent constitutional crisis. And the public wants to see whether accountability is possible. Tonight, we've heard from legal observers who are now monitoring every filing in real time. They say Trump's options are narrowing rapidly. They say his legal team appears to be in disarray. And they say Trump's decision to abandon the declassification defense is likely part of a last-ditch delay strategy intended to push trial past the election. But prosecutors are not allowing that. In fact, prosecutors are accelerating. Their response today, comprehensive, documented, and devastating, sent a message to Trump that legal fantasy will not substitute for legal defense. And it sent a message to the country that the rule of law still applies. As the legal process continues, we expect more details to emerge about what exactly Trump hoped to achieve with the declassification defense. But what we do know is that the special counsel's response was timely. It closed off an escape route. It established prosecutorial momentum, and it demonstrated that this case is moving toward trial. What happens next will depend on what Trump's lawyers do in the next several weeks. If they continue retreating, this moment will be remembered as the turning point. If they attempt another legal fiction, prosecutors have already shown they are prepared. They have shown they are ready to respond. And tonight, for the first time in months, Trump's legal team appears to be genuinely worried. Mar-a-Lago is quiet, too quiet. And when Trump is quiet, it means he is calculating. It means he is choosing his next move carefully. Because tonight, Trump learned something he has learned many times before. Courts require evidence, not claims. Judges require precedent, not bluster. And juries require truth, not television performances. This story is far from over. But tonight, one thing is clear. The declassification defense is dead. His lawyers know it. And the prosecutors are ready for whatever comes next. And we will be here watching every detail as the next phase unfolds.